Good morning. Welcome to Wedgewood Community Church on this beautiful Sunday morning. We are glad you're here. We're glad you're joining us live, and we're glad if you are viewing later. We welcome you and hope you enjoy the service. We begin every week with our announcements, so I will turn it over to Liz, our Community Outreach Coordinator, to bring us our announcements this week.
Thank you, Melba. Good morning, everyone. We have just a few announcements and upcoming events this week. Next Sunday, September 12th, we have a special guest, the Reverend Ladane McLeese-Pulaski, who is the director of the of MECMN, the Metropolitan Interfaith Network for here in Mecklenburg County. We are an interfaith network of houses of faith and individuals working to foster understanding, compassion, and justice. And we as Wedgewood, we're a member of MECMN, and the organization does just like amazing things. So we're really excited to have her come and speak next week.
Just so you know, Liz, she and Tom and Kate came to Wedgewood for a while.
Oh, wow.
We were in seminary with Ladane, and her husband is a math professor at Winthrop, and they're just a delightful family.
Yeah, Ladane is, I've gotten to know her pretty well, and she's wonderful. She donated quite a bit of items to the yard sale that we had in June. So she's wonderful. So we would look forward to hearing her speak next week.
I just want to hear her update on her daughter, Kate.
I'm sure she'll have an update for you. So the Charlotte Pride Interfaith celebration has been postponed because of the Delta variant. It's been pushed back to October 17th. It'll be at 4 p.m. at St. Luke's Missionary Baptist Church. All in-person events have been postponed until October at the very least. So stay tuned for more information. We'll share that information as we hear about it. Additionally, because of a lot of the Charlotte Pride events being postponed and moved to October, we are postponing our yard sale to spring of 2022, so it doesn't interfere with those events. So we will be having a yard sale again. It's just going to be a little bit later. So hang on to those things you were going to donate. We will and honestly, if you have things you want to go ahead and donate, we can probably still go ahead and collect them at the church. We've got a storage room. But we won't have the yard sale until later in the spring. So we'll get back to you once we have that date figured out. Our community garden is thriving, especially with this weather that we've had lately. I was just there on Friday and the plants were so happy. So I plan on going back this afternoon. Folks are welcome to join me if you'd like to see the garden, if anybody hasn't been yet, and see what we're doing. I'm going to give them a good soak, a good drink of water before the week kicks off. And we've got a few plants that I think are about ready to be picked. There's a pepper that I've been keeping an eye on so it can get really nice and bright yellow. So if anyone would like to volunteer to come and help out with the community garden, please just let us know. It's pretty simple right now. We're in maintenance mode, so we just need regular watering, and any weeds or grasses that get in the bed, you can just pull those out. And then at some point pretty soon, we're actually going to be swapping out to our fall crop. So we'll let you know when that happens. So if anybody is interested in helping out, just let us know.
I went out and gave him a drink yesterday, and
Awesome.
There's some tomatoes ready to be harvested.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Thomas. I really appreciate that. And Wedgewood has a blog. We've actually had some folks reach out to contribute to the blog, which is exciting. So if you'd like to contribute, if you have a poem, a story, or a message you'd like to share, send it to me along with 2 pictures at the email address listed, and we will get you up on the blog. The Wedgewood Social Justice Book Club, their next meeting will be on Thursday, September 16th at 7 p.m. They're reading the essays of Angela Davis. So contact a book club member or the church for copies of those essays. And the next MIOS, Moving in One Spirit meeting, is Sunday, September 12th at 6:30. And the Social Justice Committee will be meeting on Tuesday, September 21st at 6:30. And the Children and Youth Committee will have their next meeting on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, September 7th at 6:30 p.m. We continue to partner with Project Outpour. They partner with First Christian Church on East Boulevard to provide free shower access for the homeless every Tuesday from 10 to 2 p.m. If you'd like to sign up to help out, the link is in our newsletter, as well as our Adopt a Resident program with Queen City Assisted Living. Please reach out to Wedgwoody and Travis Freeup for more information on how to help out with that. And then we have the Sandwich program with Charlotte Atheists and Agnostics. Their next monthly distribution to the homeless will be on Saturday, September 11th at 9 a.m. They've pushed it back 1 week because of the holiday weekend. So if you'd like to join them on next Saturday, please let me or Melba know so we can give you the contact number of the person organizing it. The food pantry continues to need support. Excuse me. We need all of the items listed. We're always in need of donations because the things that we get donated tend to go very, very quickly. So we're always in need of donations. Special thank you to Ashanti and Thomas, who have been donating some really wonderful items that go directly into the bags of the people that we help. So special shout out to them this week. And if anybody would like to volunteer, we love having volunteers. You must be at least 16 years old and accompanied by an adult if you're under the age of 18. We also accept financial donations as well. And we'll talk more about that right now. So church giving, you can give directly to the church as well as the food pantry. The different ways you can mail your offering to Wedgwood Community Church, the PO box listed. You can Venmo, you can PayPal or Zelle. We've been having issues with Vanco, so we're discontinuing the text to give for right now. We're looking into more reliable options for giving by text. So we'll let you know when we have more information about that. Connect with us. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we have a website that I keep regularly updated. And also we have our email and phone numbers. If you ever need to get into contact with us for any reason, feel free to do so. And also feel free to contact the Wedgwood Community Church staff directly at any time at the number listed or the email listed. Melba Evans is the ministerial coordinator. I, Liz Shobe, am the community outreach coordinator, and Ashanti Munir is the music coordinator. So feel free to reach out to us at any time. And a friendly reminder that we have a weekly newsletter with more events and information included than we talk about in the announcements, just for time. So please make sure that you're reading the newsletter so you don't miss any of the great things happening at Wedgwood and in the community. And if you're not receiving the newsletter, let us know and send us your email so we can add you to it. And so next up, we have our prelude.
Wow, all those beautiful young voices and faces encouraging us on. It just always warms my heart when I see young people expressing hope for the future. And now from the Inclusive Bible, the 23rd Psalm. You are my shepherd. I want nothing more. You let me lie down in green meadows. You lead me beside restful waters. You refresh my soul. You guide me to lush pastures for the sake of your name. Even if I'm surrounded by shadows of death, I fear no danger, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they give me courage. You spread a table for me in the presence of my enemies, and you anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Only goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in your house for days without end. And now Thomas will lead us in our extravagant welcome.
We are all welcome here. Welcome to a church that works for peace, justice, equality, and care of Mother Earth.
An extravagant welcome to you because of your gender identification, sexual orientation, ethnicity, economic situation, physical and mental challenges, doubting or believing, being depressed or full of joy.
We are a community of curious and creative spiritual seekers striving to learn and embody the ways of Jesus and other spiritual leaders.
Like Jesus, we focus on the plundered and the marginalized as we try to address the major issues of our day.
And one of the ways we seek to heal the world and ourselves is sharing parts of our personal story.
We are
all
welcome
welcome
here.
here.
Yes, we are all welcome here. Sometimes we're together on that better.
You're right.
Sometimes it works.
And sometimes it doesn't, but we're still here.
You're right.
We are all welcome here.
Yes.
And now we'll go to our moment for all ages. And our moment for all ages this morning is a book entitled God in Between. And this book is written for children and adults. It's written by Rabbi Sandy Eisenberg Sasso. And I will center my message on this book today. God in Between. Once there was a town at the foot of a hill with no roads and no windows. Without roads, the people of the town had nowhere to go, and they wondered what was on the other side of that hill. Whenever they tried to leave their homes, they would sneeze through all the long, tangled weeds and tumble down into deep holes and trip over rocks as big as watermelons. Got beautiful pictures. Without windows, they would sleep late into the day, and they often wondered when did the sun turn night into morning. Their houses were closed up like boxes filled with tape. They could never look out, and their neighbors could never look in. The people became tired of sneezing through all those tall weeds and tumbling into deep holes and tripping over rocks as large as watermelons, and of seeing nothing and going nowhere. So they decided they would all meet in the center of town. One townsperson spoke up. Well, I've heard there's a God, and when people find God, God solves their problem. Well, then let's go find this God, someone shouted. And God will build windows and roads for us. Others thought it was a ridiculous notion and said God is just somebody's imagination. If he were real, he would come find us. Yet the people could not see any other way to fix their town, so they decided they would all go looking for God. But there was one problem. Without roads, the people could go nowhere, least of all searching for God. They looked toward the end of town where two old houses stood, but each of those houses had a single window. They called the man and woman who lived in those houses, the ones who could see out windows. If they could see out windows, said the people, perhaps they could see a way to God. So the people of the town sent the ones who could see out the windows to search for God. The ones who could see out windows thought that God must be on the other side of that big hill, somewhere they had never been. They wove their way through the weeds, around the deep holes, and beyond the large rocks to try to find God. When they disappeared beyond the hill, the people thought, well, they'll probably never return. The woman who could see out windows went up a tall mountain. The climb was steep, and when she finally reached the mountain's peak, her body shivered from the cold and she was breathless. She gazed up at the sky and tried to tug on one of the clouds. She looked down to the ground and watched the earth spinning in a dizzy dance, but saw no God. Then the woman who could see out windows thought that, well, God might be in the deep waters that cover so much of the earth. So she set sail on a ship. One day, the sea waters turned from placid blue to an angry foam, and a storm stirred up, and the ship tossed and turned on the waves. The woman imagined what it might be to tumble around in the belly of a big fish, but as the ship swayed back and forth, she felt she had a whole school of fish in her belly. The woman could no longer seek God in the ocean, so she went back to dry land. Meanwhile, The man who could see out windows traveled to the desert. He listened for God in the desert winds and looked for God in the sand. The sun burned his skin, and the hot ground made blisters on his feet, but there was no God. Then the man thought he might find God in the cool quiet of a cave. So he searched in the dark for God and listened for God in the silence. At first, the cave walls soothed his sunburned skin, but then the black shade turned to dark ink, and he imagined scary sounds, and he became very afraid and very lonely in the cave. And he did not see God. The ones who could see out windows were tired, and they decided to stop looking for God. Each hoped the other had been successful, but when they met, the woman saw the man's drooping shoulders, and the man saw the woman's sad eyes, and they knew that neither one had found God. The woman put her cool hand on the man's sunburned arm, and the man wrapped his blanket around the chilled woman. It was a dark, moonless night, and the ones who could see out the windows could see nothing but each other. In soft, small voices, they talked long into the evening. They told each other their stories. When dawn lightened the sky, the man said, "It's time to go home," and the woman agreed. One of the townspeople was sneezing through the tangled weeds when he saw the ones who could see out windows approaching the town. He called to the others, and they all came sneezing through the tangled weeds, tumbling into deep holes and tripping over those rocks as big as watermelons. "Tell us," they shouted, "tell us, where is God?" The woman who could see out windows told her story. "I climbed a tall mountain. I traveled on the water. I did not find God." The man who could see out windows told his story. "I walked across the desert sands that spread out like hot fire on the land. I was alone in a cave. There was no God." The people called out, "We were right. See, we were right all along. There is no God." The townspeople voices became louder and louder. They were so busy complaining about all the problems in their windowless, roadless town that they forgot about the ones who could see out windows and about God. Days passed, and everything was the same in this windowless, roadless town, except for one thing. The ones who could see out windows helped each other put windows in every room of their home. Then the man and the woman cut the weeds and filled the holes and cleared the rocks to build a road between their houses. The townspeople were stunned. "We've never been able to have any roads in this town, and we've never had so many windows. How did you do that?" "With God's help," answered the ones who could see out the windows. But you told us you had gone all over the mountains and the sea and the deserts and in caves and you didn't find God." "We journeyed hundreds of miles looking for God," they said, "and then we found each other," said the woman, "and we discovered God was with us," added the man. "With you? Right here?" puzzled the townspeople. "At home?" "Wherever you are," answered the woman who could see out windows. "Well, what about what lies beyond the hill, the mountains, the sea, the desert, and the caves?" shouted the townspeople. "Wherever you are," said the man who could see out windows. "But I can't see God anywhere," insisted one of the men. I just see you. If God is here, show us who he is. Where is God?" The ones who could see out windows spoke in a whisper. The townspeople gathered close to listen. The setting sun blushed the sky a deep red, and a breathless silence embraced the entire town. "God is in between," said the ones who could see out the windows. "God is in between. God is in between us." And that's our reading for today. And we go now to our time of meditation, prayer, and reflection, however you choose to use this time. I see Donna Carter is on with us this morning. We want to continue to remember Donna in our prayers. And Donna, we're so thrilled that you're here and listening in to Wedgwood on this Sunday morning. What other prayers, meditations, healing thoughts, concerns, or celebrations do you have to share today?
I have something I would love to lift up. I think by now most people have heard about the really sad news coming out of Texas, with one of the worst laws preventing access to abortion in the United States that I've ever heard. And regardless of how someone feels about abortion, from a public health perspective, it's impossible to make abortion go away. So it's important to make sure that it's safe. And putting a bounty on human beings who have already had to make a really difficult choice, I think is disgusting. And so my heart is with Texas, as well as all the other people who live in other conservative states that will try to pass similar laws, because we know it's coming.
I would like to lift my father up. He had surgery on Friday. He's doing very well, but I just want to keep him in prayer. Thank you.
And how is your uncle? Mariah or Raquel, one of you had an uncle that was just diagnosed with cancer.
Yes, he going for his treatment Tuesday.
Okay.
That's where they're gonna leave back out to go get him. I think his blood work or something like that. He leaves Tuesday. It's in Atlanta. Is where he getting treatment. So he's going back and forth to Atlanta, and they leave right back out Tuesday. But so far, they just celebrated his birthday, so he's in good spirits.
Good.
I just want to be thankful for family time. It's so important. I feel like since this pandemic started, the time's been moving quickly, like very fast. I don't know if anyone else feels that, but I feel that. And I feel like this time is moving so quickly. So you have to really make special moments in your life and connect with one another, a friend, or whatever it is on a positive level. So I'm thankful for family and positive times, even through these crazy times. Just thankful.
Others.
I'd just like to remember all the families who are mourning on 9/11.
Mm.
And just how we put the war in perspective for the last 20 years and pray for hearts and minds to be healed.
And pray for the mothers. And pray for the mothers and families that lost their children from COVID. You know, I've been reading a lot of different stories, young people, 19-year-old children, 17-year-olds. And it's this new Delta variant. It's really taking them out quickly, very quickly, so praying for the families, the mothers, fathers, the families.
I have two friends who have children in their families, a niece, grandchild, under the age of 1 who were hospitalized with COVID.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I can't even imagine.
I can't imagine that.
And it just seemed like this day, every time I came on Facebook, it was another funeral. It was another death. It was somebody else was in the ICU. It seemed like Facebook was not even an escape from the news. It was just death everywhere.
If I may, Melba, I'd like to lift up our teachers,
Yes.
especially our elementary teachers and middle
Yes.
school teachers that are dealing with children who have
Yes.
maybe not been vaccinated yet. My daughter's a first grade teacher. She has a child with cystic fibrosis. So the trickle down from the potential this disease has can filter out in so many lives that aren't even in school yet. So for the teachers and the children that are not vaccinated, I'd like to have us remember them.
Yes.
Amen. And on that same vein, my son and his wife have decided to homeschool this year. They have James, who is 7, too young to vaccinate, and they have a 13-month-old. And so they're going to need lots of prayers, lots of prayers. So homeschooling your kids, I don't know if I could do it or not, but they will be absolutely amazing. And grandma is here and going to Zoom every day if I need to for an hour to do some homeschooling, and we will get him through third grade. But they are just too fearful. He could bring it home to that baby. He could, it's just a dangerous situation. So they talk to me, and I support them 100%. So please keep them in their prayers, your prayers all year. Thank you. Any others?
Good morning. This is Jackie. Along the line of Liz's, I have a friend who is a state representative in Texas, and these situations have been especially difficult for her and other representatives. She had to leave the state earlier this summer when they were dealing with the restrictive voting laws, and now this situation as well. So I would ask that we continue to hold them up as well, because they are having to deal with this situation day in and day out. And it's very difficult for them as well. Thank you.
Well, and this whole masking situation, Laura mentioned school superintendents getting fired because they are upholding the law of mask mandate. I mean, there's just been attacks on school people because they're doing what they're supposed to do, what is their job. So let's don't forget our leadership in our schools too. Any others? All right, then we will go to a quiet time. We have different beliefs at Wedgwood. If you believe in prayer, use it as prayer time, meditation time, time to just relax and sit in the quiet for a minute and relax your shoulders and clear your mind. Use these few moments however you choose. Amen. What they did yesterday afternoon by Warsaw they set my aunt's house on fire. I cried the way women on TV do, folding at the middle like a 5-pound note. I called the boy who used to love me, tried to okay my voice. I said hello. He said, "What's wrong? What happened?" I've been praying, and these are what my prayers look like. Dear God, I come from 2 countries. One is thirsty, the other is on fire. Both need water. Later that night, I held an atlas on my lap. I ran my fingers across the whole world and I whispered, "Where does it hurt?" And it answered, "Everywhere, everywhere." Are there days when you feel like it hurts everywhere? I have experienced some of those days very recently. On the days leading up to August the 10th, Our COVID was getting worse. Larry was becoming filled with brain fog, disoriented, unable to walk, stumbling into things that he could walk in the dark through in the house, falling in the kitchen. And we thought maybe it was temporary, so we waited a few days, but then as it got worse and worse, I finally said, no more, we've got to see someone. It was almost time for the doctor's office to close, but I called and said, what do we do? They said, go to urgent care. Called urgent care. There were no appointments available and the wait was 4 hours. And I said, a man in this condition can't sit there for 4 hours. So we went to the ER at South Park that you may be familiar with. It's not connected to a hospital. It's a separate ER. When I was helping Larry get to the car, he stood there and couldn't open the car door. Got him inside, got the seatbelt on, got to the hospital, and he didn't know how to get the seatbelt off. He couldn't walk without assistance. So I got him into the waiting room and walked up to the desk, where they informed me that I could not stay with him. That because I had had COVID, I had to leave. Larry was very frightened. He wanted me to be with him. He could hardly talk coherently to tell them what was going on. But they insisted that I could not even wait in the waiting room in a corner somewhere. There was only one other couple in the waiting room at the far end, and I saw no reason I couldn't be at the opposite end, yards away, but they insisted I had to leave. I had done all I could to get up there, being very sick myself, and was weak and tired, and I slowly and sadly walked out the door and left him with people I did not know. As I went out the door, I called his son to tell his son where we were and what was going on. It was one of those rainy, stormy nights with lightning flashing. And I stood there under the awning at the front of the emergency room on the phone with his son. And the security guard comes and says, do you understand the rules here about COVID? I said, yes, I do. I'm talking to my husband's son. Just a minute, please. No, you have to leave. You can't stand out here. Where do I go? You have to go sit in your car. You can't stand out here. I was shocked. I felt like I was just a nobody, like I didn't matter. There was no compassion that I had seen. And my heart kept saying, these people are tired, they're exhausted, I've got to be understanding. But it was a moment when I needed some compassion. He didn't offer to walk me to the car. He kept backing away from me as if he was afraid of me. Put the umbrella up, and I walked alone into the parking deck, into my car, in the dark with the thunder and the lightning and the rain. It seemed like everyone that night was in a bad mood. I cried. It wasn't seconds till I just burst into tears sitting there in the car in the dark. I sat there for over 3 hours alone, wondering what was happening. I tried to call Larry, but he couldn't answer the phone. So I did not know what was going on. It was one of those moments when you want to cry out for your mama and your daddy. Come help me. I need help. And yet, being COVID, there was no one to call. It was a very low point for me. I was angry. I was mad. I was heartbroken. I was scared. Every emotion that I could imagine I was going through. And then I saw an ambulance go by to the side door, and my heart panicked. Are they taking him to the hospital? Are they not telling me what's going on? So I backed my car out and I drove over to the ambulance entrance to watch and see. But it was not Larry they brought out. Finally, over 3 hours later of sitting in that car in the quiet alone, feeling so angry and lonely and tired and exhausted, someone brought him out to the car. And she said they had given him a head scan, an x-ray, and they looked good. They'd done blood work, no results yet. Just go home and drink water. Go home and drink water when you can't put on a seatbelt or open a car door. And I just took him home. We just went home. Needless to say, I got no sleep that night. I laid in the bed just looking up and staring at the ceiling. My eyes must have stared at that ceiling the entire night, listening for his movements, knowing he could not get up without me being there. And I looked at that ceiling, searching for God somewhere on the ceiling of that bedroom, exhausted but unable to sleep. Thomas More spent decades searching for big answers to big questions. The respected scholar lived for 13 years as a Roman Catholic monk. He earned a doctorate in religious studies and published 16 books on related topics. Along his journey, he discovered that the word God may not be an adequate description of the divine presence that we all seek. Spirituality is seeded and germinates, sprouts and blossoms in the mundane, he said. It is to be found and nurtured in the smallest of daily activities. And the term God does not describe that. Something deep in human makeup, he said, needs and longs for a taste of eternity, a momentary release from the relentless pace of time. Sounds like what Ashanti was just talking about, the relentless pace of time. We all need a break. We all need that break. And just to clarify, at Wedgwood, we believe exactly what Thomas More has expressed. Your vision or belief of God is probably very different from mine. When I'm searching for God, I'm probably searching for something very different from what you're searching for. When you hear the word God, what do you imagine? A man or a woman in a pristine white robe on a cloud, like we were taught as children? A mysterious, human, ghostly-like figure? A completely non-physical presence? Your conscience and that strength that resonates deep within your soul that guides you. Different people have different visions of the divine. Thomas More says that there's one important understanding he has come to in his 13 years as a monk and decades of theological study. God is unknowable. He explains in a conversation with Oprah on Super Soul Sunday, this unknowable force in our lives is also infinite and existing everywhere. It's a concept that Moore explores more in part in his book, A Religion of One's Own, and he says, God is in the space between sentences. God is in the space between sentences. He challenges everyone to let go of the God you think you know. Let go of the God you thought you know, and be open to experiencing God in a new way. For himself, Moore doesn't like to use the word God in his writings because he feels like it diminishes the divine. He feels the term is not infinite or mysterious or unknowable. Moore is very conscious of using the word God and careful when he does because he doesn't want to invoke any preconceived notions in his audience. But at times like these, when we feel that the whole world is crashing in on us, that all of our efforts to create a more equitable world, our efforts to do something about climate crisis, our efforts to overcome COVID seem to be futile and a waste of time, where do we find God? Where do we find that inner strength, that resilience, that spirit of life that we all long for? Where is the divine? Do we see it in our children, our family, our friends? Do we hear it in the music? Or do we hear it in laughter? Atheists and agnostics say that they find their strength from within and from without, from themselves and from each other, and that from time to time they spend quality time reevaluating and creating a new plan for life. Just like the magical, mystical tale of a poor village at the foot of a hill, all topsy-turvy, with no roads and no windows, where the people sneeze through tall, tangled weeds and trip over rocks as big as watermelons, I did find God. I did find that inner strength. Like them, I soon was reminded that the answer was much nearer than I thought. That inspiring story teaches us that God can be found right where we are, within all of us, and the relationships between us. Like the village people, we have people who can see through the windows. Some days, each of us can see very clearly through the windows. Some days, we can't. Sometimes we need somebody to help us clear the window and see through the window. Sometimes we need to reach out. You are the ones who helped me see through the windows. Simple acts. A bouquet of garden zinnias left at my door. Brunswick stew. Wild rice chicken soup. A homemade loaf of zucchini bread. A bag of fresh farmer's market peaches. Oh, and the smile cards brought when the mail was delivered by a neighbor to the door, because she knew we couldn't get to the mailbox to get it. The text, how are you doing today? Simple words that meant somebody cared. A phone call, a voice message, a neighbor coming over and mowing our lawn. Another neighbor bringing the trash can in on trash days. Liz reached out every single day to ask, is there anything Wedgwoodians can do? Start a meal train? Can't eat, don't need a meal train, just prayers. But every day I heard from you through Liz, and I cannot tell you how much it meant. We all have to be those people that help others see through the windows at times like this. May we be that person with the windows open to guide someone else back to whatever their vision of God may be. May Wedgwood's windows always be open as that light in the dark that Mariah talked about a few weeks ago. It takes individual responsibility. We can talk about being community. We can talk about being a welcoming community, but it takes individual responsibility for us to help others see God in ourselves and in Wedgwood Church, and to find God in between us. May people find God always in the community of Wedgwood Church. We call ourselves a community church. Cameron spoke to us about this first of the month and how to be a welcoming community. And Artie last Sunday told us we've got to be who we say we are. May Wedgwood always be a place with the windows open. Thank you.
Every Sunday we get something powerful to say. My message today is the song is called Stand in Faith. And I think it goes perfect with what Melba's story was talking about. When you're in a dark place, what do you feel? Where do you feel that you're alone? And where is God? You might ask yourself. And those are the times where we need to stand in our faith and hold on, because he's going to be right there with you, you know? So this song is called Stand in Faith by Danny Koki. Can't escape disappointment, can't avoid the delay, but I can't think about feeling down and defeated, the place that I stay.
Gonna rise to the moment. Gonna speed through the waves. Gonna push back that doubt that keeps drowning me out when I can't find my way. No way to see it, or to believe it. Before you even move or make a way, I stand in faith, believe in faith, walk by faith. Oh, I believe, I believe, I believe, stand in faith, see by faith, see by faith. Oh, I believe, I believe, I believe. It's a season for healing. It's a season for change. To make miracles happen when no one can fathom when heaven invades. And it's more than a feeling. And it's anger to praise. When it's the darkest, it reaches the farthest and opens a way. No need to see it, or to believe it. Before you even move or make a way, I'll stand in faith, walk by faith, live by faith. Oh, I believe, I believe, I believe, stand in faith, seek by faith, receive by faith. Oh, I believe, I believe, I believe. This is where a dull man gets his sight. This is where a dead man starts to rise. This is where small things multiply. Nothing is possible, nothing impossible. This is where oceans start to part. This is where light cuts through the dark. This is where I see who you are. Nothing's impossible, nothing's impossible. Stir my faith. I'm standing faith. I believe, I believe, I believe. Standing faith. Walk by faith. See by faith. Oh, I believe, I believe, I believe. Standing faith. Yes.
Wow, beautiful, Ashanti. Thank you so very much. And now Mariah will lead us in our benediction.
There's power at work in the universe. It works through human hands, but it was not made by human hands. It is creative, sustaining, and transforming power. And we can trust that power with our lives and with our ministries. It will sustain us whenever we take a stand on the side of love. Whenever we take a stand for peace and justice. Whenever we take risks, trust in that power. We are together, held by that power. Amen. Go in peace.